Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed to practically nil, and thus loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental hymns, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, is it text 32 or 31?
31.
Prashantam Asinam Akunta Medasam Prashantam Asinam Akunta Medasam Munim Nripo Bhagavato Viyupetya Munim Nripo Bhagavato Viyupetya Pranamya Murnavahita Kritanjali Pranamya Murna Vahita Kritanjali Natva Gira Sumritayan Vaprichat Natva Gira Suritayan Vaprichat Prashantam Akunta Medasam Munim Nipo Bhagavato Yupetya Pranamya Mutna Vahita Kritanjali Natwagida Sundritayan Vaprichat Prashantamasina Makunta Medasam Munim Nipo Bhagavato Yupetya Pranamya Motna Vaita Kritanjali. Natva Gira Sundritayan Vatrichat.
Prashantam asinam akuntam vedasam.
Prashantam asinam akuntam vedasam.
Munim nipo bhagavato bhupetya.
Munim nipo bhagavato bhupetya.
Pranamya murdhanvahita kintanjalir.
Pranamya mudna vahita kritanjalir.
Natvagira sunrityata yanvilvya prichat.
Natvagira sunritayan vaprichat.
Prashantamasina makunta medasam.
Prashantamasina makunta vedasam.
Munim nipo bhagavato bhupetya.
Munim nipo bhagavato bhupetya.
Pranama murdhanava itaha kritanjalir.
Pranamya mudnyam vaita kritanjalir.
Natva gira sundritam vaprichat.
Natva gila sundritayan vaprichat. Prashantamasina makunta vedasam.
Munim Nripo Bhagavato Bhupetya.
Munim nipa bhagavato bhupetya.
Pranamya Murna Vahita Kritanjalir.
Pranamya mudna vahita kritanjalir.
Natva Kira Sunritayan Vaprichat.
Natva gila sundritayan vaprichat. Prashantamasina makunta vedasam. Munim nipo bhagavato bhupetya. Pranamya mudna vahita kritanjalir. Natva gira sundritayan vaprichat. Prashantamasina makunta vedasam. Munim nipo bhagavato bhupetya. Kritanjalir. Natva gira sundritayan vaprichat. Word for word. Prashantam. Perfectly pacified. Asinam. Sitting. Akunta. Without hesitation. Medasam. One who has sufficient intelligence. Munim. On to the great sage. Nipa. The king. Maharaj Parikshit. Bhagavata. The great devotee. Abhyubetya. Approaching him. Pranamya. Bowing down. Murna. His head. Avitaha. Properly. Krita Janjali.
Krita Janjali.
With folded hands.
Folded hands.
Natwa.
Natwa.
Politely.
Politely.
Gita.
Gita.
By word.
By words.
Sundritaya.
Sundritaha.
In sweet voices.
Sweet
Sweet voices.
Navabrichat.
Navabrichat.
In quiet.
Inquired.
The sage Sri Sukadeva Goswami sat perfectly pacified, intelligent, and ready to answer any question without hesitation. The great devotee Maharaj Parikshit approached him, offered his respects by bowing before him, and politely inquired with sweet words and folded hands. Please repeat. The sage Sri Sukadeva Goswami,
The sage Sri Sukadeva Goswami,
sat perfectly pacified,
sat perfectly pacified,
intelligent and ready to answer any question
intelligent and ready to answer any question
without hesitation.
without hesitation.
The great devotee
The great devotee,
Maharaj Parikshit
Maharaj Parikshit,
approached him,
approached him,
offered his respects
offered his respects
by bowing before him,
by bowing before him,
and politely inquired
and politely inquired
with sweet words
with sweet words
and folded hands.
and folded hands.
Srila Prabhupada's divine purport.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
The gesture now adopted by Maharaj Parikshit of questioning a master is quite befitting in terms of scriptural injunctions. The scriptural injunction is that one should humbly approach a spiritual master to understand the transcendental science. Maharaj Parikshit was now prepared for meeting his death. And within the very short time of 7 days, he was to know the process of entering the kingdom of God. In such important cases, one is required to approach a spiritual master. There is no necessity of approaching a spiritual master unless one is in need of solving the problems of life. One who does not know how to put questions before the spiritual master has no business seeing him. And the qualification of the spiritual master is perfectly manifested in the person of Sukadeva Goswami. Both the spiritual master and the disciple, namely Sri Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, attained perfection through the medium of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami learned Srimad Bhagavatam from his father Vyasadeva, but he had no chance to recite it. Before Parikshit Maharaj, he recited Srimad Bhagavatam and answered the questions of Maharaj Parikshit unhesitatingly. And thus, both the master and the disciple got salvation. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. We offer our respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, who is opening our eyes, although they have been shut by the darkness of ignorance. When will Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world, give us shelter under his lotus feet? Mukandroti vachalam pungam lingayate girim yakri patamaham bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Iswaram. By the mercy of the spiritual master, even a lame man can cross mountains. And a dumb man can speak poetry. So, obvious point of how to approach a spiritual master. The guru or spiritual master, in this particular case, and in many cases, is seated very pacified. We may wonder why. And we may think because he's Prasanatma, he's self-realized, he is Brahma Buddha, he doesn't identify with the material platform. And that is certainly true. But what is brought out here in Srila Prabhupada's purport is that he's absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful story of the personality of Godhead. So his consciousness is in another place. It's not in this place of birth, death, old age, and disease, Varna and ashram, how to keep it together, and ultimately transcend it. He's already in the transcendence, and he's absorbed in the Bhagavatam. I can't remember exactly where, but it does state, and I can remember a long time ago, one of Prabhupada's sannyasis giving a class and saying how confident he was that by hearing the Bhagavatam from the first canto systematically through the 12th canto, at the very end he would be perfectly self-realized. That is the promise of the Bhagavatam, that I cannot give the particular sloka or purport. That is the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which people had to accomplish through very difficult austerities and practices of yoga and charities and sacrifices and perfect puja, can in this day and age be attained simply by hearing and chanting the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is why Srila Sukadeva Goswami is seated very pacified. He's just waiting for that opportunity to recite the Bhagavatam. He was already Brahma Buddha to the extent that his senses were so controlled that even the nature of childbirth could not force him to change his position. He was fixed in Brahman, beyond the modes of material nature. But upon hearing the Bhagavatam recited by the literary incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva, his own father, he became moved by the internal potency of the Lord, the Yogamaya potency of the Lord. And he came out of the womb, and is in the case of many of these sages, as well as Devas and many other celestial beings, and even beings who are not celestial, but are very mighty and from the lower regions, such as Rakshasa. He grew very quickly. They don't have to spend time as an infant who can't talk and can't feed themselves and had to learn to walk. And they grow very quickly, depending also upon the motherly role that is play. They may spend some time on the lap of their mother, but very quickly they grow up. They don't even need to go so much for education. Like Sukadeva Goswami, he was educated within the womb, and he was educated in his previous life, spiritual education, as well as material education. So he grew up very quickly and was already being moved by providence to his next destination, knowing that his duty was, his name, Sukadeva, to very sweetly recite the glory of the Lord. And so he left, and he wondered about, just in that trance, not bothered by anything. Even the rebukes or the slander, so to speak, or the when people say bad things, whatever things were being said by ladies and boys who were following him and tormenting him, because he was nude walking around, and so naturally you think a person is a little bit crazy, even though they may be beautiful, you think, oh, the crazy boy, because he was only 16. But he knew where he was going. He knew, because he was just following the potency of the Lord, and came upon this big event, the biggest event in the universe happening at the time. The universe is a big place, and we know even on earth, even in our country and state, there can be very big events, whether they be political events or entertainment events. Usually they're those kind of events, but it could be all kinds of things, a big educational event. I don't want to name all the material things it could be. So many big events. So many people come from all over to see them and hear them. So this wasn't only in a little county or state or nation or planet. It was throughout the universe, the biggest event taking place. The great devotee, Parikshit Maharaj, already a devotee, the grandson of Arjuna, the great Pandava, the eternal friend of Krishna, was about to fast until his death. He had been cursed by a Brahmin boy and was doomed to die in 7 days. And he has come to the Ganga, the great and holy Ganga, that has appeared through the universe by the piercing of Lord Vamanadeva, running down his feet and falling onto the dreadlocks of Lord Shiva, and then appearing on earth, being led by Bhagirath Maharaj, all the way to the sea. So sitting by this Ganga, so many devas and sages and great people in the universe and powerful kings on the earth, they have all come to be with Parikshit Maharaj, to see what he does in these last days. If some other great person we knew was going to die in 7 days and was fasting, many times old people and diseased people, they can't eat, they have to fast. You can't eat, you can't digest. All the life air, the blood and the outward extremities is moving toward the heart. And people, by nature, they can't take the trouble to digest. They don't want to eat. They give them some swab with some lemon juice on it or something to suck on. Maybe a little water. So this is a natural thing. But here's Parikshit Maharaj. He's in the epitome of his strong time, in his middle age somewhere. Young middle age. So his senses are very powerful. They're not dying. So, this fasting is a little bit of an austerity for him. It's not going on by nature. He has something he has willed. He has determined. With his determination, his bala, his spiritual strength, the material strength. He has taken a vow. People don't take vows that they cannot fulfill. It's very dangerous to take a vow before the deity, because what if you can't fulfill it? But he has taken a vow. I will fast until death. He wants to attain his perfection now. His death has come early. So what should I do? I will go to the Ganga and I will fast until death. And by Providence's will, so many spiritual masters have come. So many leaders in society and within the universe have come. This is very nice. Now there's someone I can inquire from. What should a person in my position do? I'm getting ready to die. What should I do? And lo and behold, here comes Sukadeva Goswami. You can see how even Providence, in one sense, does a fantastic marketing job. So many great persons assembled all over the universe. And then it's though like a curtain is pulled and the guest of honor comes out. The person who will be the MC, who will actually answer all the questions of Parikshit, appears. And he doesn't appear in like an ordinary way, like a sadhu with those sadhu shoes and a really fancy dhoti and charter and hairy chest and beard with ages of wisdom. He doesn't appear like that. But he appears as a young kid, only 16, with a color like Krishna's, with clean skin and long, beautiful, curly hair. Not even hair on his face at 16, at least from the pictures we see. We can only assume that a 16-year-old boy doesn't have much of a beard. Sometimes they do, depending on their genes, But many don't. And he's perfectly nude. And his mind is perfectly in transcendence. I mean, completely out of the desire for a position in this world. For love in this world. He's beyond that naturally. Not that he has artificially renounced it because he's gotten some position in a spiritual organization and he has to play a certain renounced role. No, not at all. He's really beyond it all. He's completely immersed in the Bhagavatam and he's just waiting for the opportunity to recite it. And by his great fortune, he's just like his name, Sukadeva. Just like the parrots in Vrindavan, who very sweetly recite the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So then, how does Parikshit approach him? Is he going to challenge him? Are you really a guru? Let's see if you know what you know. Let's see if I can make you angry by my tormentful words. I can challenge you in such a way that you will become so disturbed with me, you'll want to run me off. And everybody will see how bogus you are. Did he approach him like that? Oh, Guru Dev, tell me about, a person, how they should control anger. And, so many other things, but with the motive to try to catch him and show that somehow or other, I am superior. You couldn't answer my questions. You're not qualified. I mean, sometimes people approach like that, neophytes. Dr. Patel approached Prabhupada like that. Prabhupada was frustrated with his answers. And he'd come back and he'd come back and on the beach, and at that time Bombay, and Prabhupada would defeat him. And eventually he became Prabhupada's disciple. But when you become the disciple, you become submissive. Like Krishna says in the Gita, one approaches a spiritual master submissively and makes pertinent inquiries and is ready to render some service. Like Krishna, who would go to the forest on the order of his spiritual master's wife to collect firewood. Always ready to render service, but ready to make a pertinent inquiry. So that's how we approach. We have to have this type of demeanor, and then we can enter into the waves of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, how can the spiritual master speak about his love for his beloved, Lord Krishna, to someone who may find some fault, who doesn't have faith? Very difficult for spiritual master, for neophytes, especially in Kali Yuga. Most of the time he has to establish some faith by presenting the scriptures in a logical way that convinces a student who is interested and is making some inquiries, but whose faith is not established. He has to bring out that attraction and turn it into faith. And then, make that faith so strong that the person is steady and can start to experience some bhav, in the Bhagavatam. And Krishna, some bhav, some emotion, some love. If you don't have faith, how can you have love? One may have some love without faith, unconditionally sometimes. We love people despite their faults. We may not have even faith in them. They may have all kinds of bad qualities, but because of some relationship, we have some love. All right, if one has that with Krishna, they're very lucky, because really he doesn't have no faults, even if somebody's seeing him like that. And one's just lucky then, That's why, we have to be careful when we go to the Holy Dawn, because even though sometimes people appear to be faulty, then, we don't know what their relationship is with Krishna. So, the Guru is the most important person. But, the Guru has been made chief by Kali Yuga, and he's just another person, another type of teacher. And, there's a long list of cheaters. And so people are always skeptical, and we have to understand that. If we don't have experience ourselves, that, nobody wants to be cheated, so naturally you go on your tiptoes, not to make some mistake, and, you're praying to the all-perfect, infallible Lord to help you, if one has some faith in God. And Kali Yuga is so messed up that even faith in God has been destroyed by the darkness of this age. People, they just don't know. They're just full of doubt. So many times the spiritual master has to even destroy doubt, to speak about, severing attachment, that we are all like glued to this material nature with that epoxy glue, that you can't separate. He not only has to cut that attachment, but he may have to cut all the doubts out. A hard job. People, we come to lotus feet of Guru and Gauranga, very diseased spiritually. What to speak of, we may be healthy materially, but we come so spiritually diseased. The spiritual master practically has to be a miracle worker. He has to really possess the medicine of Nitai Gauranga. It is said that if we have some problem, we should just go to Krishna and Balaram and say, Krishna and Balaram, I have this problem. And then feel sure that Krishna and Balaram will help us. But Nitai and Nimai are not different from Krishna and Balaram. So if Krishna and Balaram are not there, then one can go to Nitai and Nimai, or Gora Nitai, and bow down and say the same thing. Gora Nitai, I have some problem. And they will say, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And that may require some faith, but how do we get faith unless we, try to be a devotee? It's difficult when we've lost that dress, so to speak, of that mentality, that consciousness. It's evaporated due to our long stint in this material nature, from one species to the next, making it on our own, and having some sort of confidence without God. And here we come and we're going to start to unload our difficulties to someone we have no faith in. So that's the position of a lot of people. So it takes time. And the spiritual master, one is very fortunate they're attracted to a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master who can help them, not just somebody who's is making his living being a spiritual master, and he's, you have to pay for whatever advancements you make. He teaches you some songs, teaches you how to play the harmonium, and, you pay him. And you get some knowledge, but still, the representative of Krishna is just not a paid guru. He's a pure devotee. He possesses bhakti. Like that, we have a book in the back called, I can't even remember his name right now. What's his name? Ashtika Thakur Das. Not Thakur Das. No. That other Thakur from Maharashtra.
Oh, Tukaram.
Tukaram Thakur. Tukaram was a grahasta, a poor Brahmin. He may not even been Brahmin by caste, I'm not sure. But he loved Vitala. And, that's the deity they worship there. And, he would always compose songs and sing, for Tempura or something like that, something like Naramuni. And he would worship his deity. So one day his wife, I forget her name, Chita, something like that.
I don't know the name of his wife.
And his wife decided, I'm going to, we don't have much, it's very austere, I'm going to worship Lakshmi. And so then he questioned, why are you worshiping Lakshmi? She said, well, we don't have anything. If I worship Lakshmi, then Lakshmi will give me some wealth, And he said, don't do this. She said, well, you worship Vitala for bhakti. Why can't I worship Lakshmi for wealth? And she persisted and worshipped Lakshmi. A few days later, she got some wealth. And she went out and spent it and made the house nice and got a new dress and some food and cooked it nice. And so when Tukaram comes home, he sees all this. He knows something. He said, where's all this come from? He says, well, I worship Lakshmi. She just sent me some wealth. I said, okay. So then she begins to notice he's not there anymore. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Where's Tukaram? A month. Tukaram's gone. She begins to look for him, can't find him, and then finally divine voice says, Tukaram is sitting down at such and such place. You should go there and, appeal to him, come back. So she goes and falls at his feet and says, I'm sorry that I digressed from your direction and worship Goddess Lakshmi for wealth. I promise that I will not only stay firm on the path of bhakti, please come back. He maybe thought for a moment and said, I will come back, but first you have to sell all the items that you acquired by your material desire. And then we can engage in the process of pure devotional service. So, that's the spiritual masters teaching pure bhakti. He's not just teaching, how to play instruments or even chant slokas, although, those things are part of Vedic education. He's not just teaching, mathematics. That's a common subject in the world today. That's very popular. It's required in any sort of science degree or all sorts of advanced degrees, engineering or whatever it be, requires some math. Even made kids who had, bachelor's degrees in the arts, has to have some basic, algebra and math, different forms of mathematics, So, but the spiritual master is not just that type of teacher. He's a teacher, but he's not just that type of teacher. He's giving entrance into the kingdom of God. And that's what Parikshit Maharaj is interested in. He's already lived a life. He may not have, in one sense, gotten to fully complete it and retire and go off and take the time to practice bhakti yoga like Maharaj Bharata did. And as we see from his life, there's always the possibility that there may be an upheaval even at that time that sends his back ways. He did have a son old enough to take over the throne, so Providence was very kind upon the dynasty that he had a powerful son who could replace him immediately. Parikshit, he was smart enough because he was a devotee, great devotee, to now seek out, a great guru, not just another teacher. He already had martial gurus, probably his own kith and kin. He grew up with Yudhisthira and Bhima and Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadev. Nakula and Sahadev were also very great herbalists. They were born from the demigod, twin demigods who are the physicians of Devas. So they were born with intrinsic knowledge of Ayurvedic medicine, medicine. And they were also, very handsome and beautiful, and expert at different things, such as taking care of cows even, and taking care of horses. One could even speak in the language of horses. What to speak of Arjuna, he could teach all the military arts to Parikshit Maharaj. Even when he wasn't able to teach his own son, Abhimanyu, because Abhimanyu was very young, and couldn't complete his education before the battle of Kurukshetra. He could take the time with Parikshit Maharaj, because the Pandavas won earth at least another 30 years, 36 years. Because if we remember, Gandhari cursed Krishna at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, that, the same thing would happen to his dynasty in 36 years, something like that. So, Parikshit was being born at the end of that battle. So for 36 years, before Krishna left the planet, the Pandavas left, and then he took over the throne. That, he was able to attain education. Maybe even from the guru of the Pandavas, Kripa Acharya, who survived the battle of Kurukshetra and was one of the elementary martial arts guru of the Pandavas. So he had adequate education in the political field. Yudhisthira Maharaj was not just a warrior, He was an astute, the most astute statesman and judge that any government or nation could have. He knew the law backward and forward. The letter of the law and the spirit of the law was within his grasp, like spontaneously, not that he had to mull over something and then, write out very long, his decision on this particular matter. He could astutely present, what the solution of the case was, and according to Shastra and great authorities. So, Pritchett Maharaj had that type of learning already there. So he didn't have to approach a guru for these things in the material world. He could approach for how to go back home to Godhead. You're at the end of life. I only have 7 days. What do I need to do? So Sukadeva was overwhelmed. This is the chance. I can now sing the Bhagavatam. He didn't have to stumble through it like we might. He just flew from his beautiful lips, It just flew out. And Pritchett Maharaj had the ability to hear it and understand it. To us it may sound beautiful, but without Prabhupada's translation, we wouldn't be able to grasp the matter. But Pritchett was on that level. He perfectly understood as it flew out the mouth. 7 days. It takes us more than 7 years. Maybe even 70 years to grasp the Bhagavatam. 7 days for him, just like Arjuna. 1 hour or maybe a little bit more for Krishna to speak the Bhagavad Gita because it's being sung. So, 18 chapters, 700 verses, being sung, very expertly, in an upbeat rhythm. An hour and a half. Arjuna comprehended everything without needing a translation or purport. So the same with the Bhagavatam. Pritchett Maharaj could understand. 7 days, Sukadeva had finished. Somehow there was enough time for him to even speak the Bhagavatam, Brihat Bhagavatam Rita to his mother, who came to him and was wondering, now what am I to do? You're leaving. And so, in response to the Bhagavatam, Sanatana Goswami had given us what Pritchett Maharaj spoke, the Brihat Bhagavatam Rita. He was able to do that. And then the snake bird bites him. And before everyone, he ascends to the spiritual sky. So, we can't take, Prabhupada cheaply. Prabhupada is, he's not just a person, teaching, even though he taught his disciples many things, how to use a Vedic bathroom, which is very popular in the world today. You can buy all kinds of things that are similar to a Vedic bathroom now because people understand it's a lot cleaner process. Just right on the internet. For $69 or $20 for different types of things. But anybody can use a loader or if they're in a modern or if they're in a Western facility, you can just step into the bathtub very quickly if you don't have time to shower and clean up and be a lot cleaner than the previous system. Prabhupada had to teach those things too, but he was teaching the Bhagavatam. And the amazing thing is that he was teaching in our language. There can be no greater mercy that he comes and takes the trouble to teach us in our language. And since he can present it face to face, but because he can't present it in a way that's academically acceptable, then he engages us to do that with his books. What more mercy can you have than the Guru gives you such an important job to edit and fix the mistakes and present it for everyone in the world, that it's it's up to English, academically acceptable English in various other languages throughout the world. And then to market it and distribute it. Most people in the world, a lot of people in the world, I don't know about most, but a lot, close to most of it, most people are, Vaishya and Sudra stock. And, they like to sell things that either make them profit or that they enjoy, and they want to simply turn others onto it. So to be able to take it out and to distribute it to others, something that we couldn't have done ourselves, but we get it in the form of something that's very popular, a book. There's big bookstores throughout the world because people like books. Even though there's the internet, we tell people how they can access it on the internet, but people still like books, and it's not I don't know about what's on your computer may matter, but certainly books on a bookshelf are like having deities in the home. These books, so they can change a person's karma. People have all kinds of karma. But the Bhagavatam is so potent that just by being in somebody's house, it can change their karma. Just think, if you're a Yamadeva and you show up at somebody's house to drag them away, and you look to the left and there's a Bhagavatam. You may start to think about that. Well, he's got the Bhagavatam in his house. Maybe you just slap him a little bit and say, hey, maybe you ought to pay attention to what's in your house. We'll be back. These things are all very personal. It's not like things are just going on by chance. We're like habituated to this mechanical type of universal structure and the way things work. Oh, it's just mechanical. No, it's all very personal. So, what Prabhupada has done for the world is a tremendous service. It's a great miracle that he has taken the Bhagavatam and put it into our language and created a society that specializes in publishing it and distributing it, and then trying to set an example of it in temples for the worship of Krishna, and in places like New Talavana, farm communities whereby we can produce everything we offer to Krishna, and make shelter for people to come and live without being taxed to death. I don't know, the individuals at least can avoid it, but the society still has to pay it, although, it's been remarkable. We've set the only precedents in the whole country, maybe even in the world, outside of India perhaps, where a government has exempted a cow protection program. The land that cow protection program is using has been exempt. Nowhere in America has that happened. Vrindavan, Vijayanagari, Balabhadra's place down in Florida, Alachua, no place else. Generally they would just laugh you out of the tax assessor's office. He may not do it to your face, wanting to be politically correct, but then when you're gone and he's home in the evening, or he's at the lounge in the evening, they probably get a big laugh out of it. Can you believe they wanted us to exempt a farming program because it was something to do with their religion? So, amazing. And that's just some of what's going on. I mean, that's the main things that Prabhupada established. But there's devotees are, striking out. And Lord, not striking out like in a baseball game, but striking out in the sense of moving out in Lord Chaitanya's movement to simply spread the glory of Srila Prabhupada, Guru and Radha and Krishna throughout the world. And we still have a long way to go, so everybody has opportunity. And we may think, oh, there's a world of birth, death, old age, and disease, but it's very nice. Why? Because everybody gets to return home quickly like Parikshit Maharaj, and at the same time the others get to take up the mission. So that way everybody gets a piece of the pie. It's not like Prabhupada passes it down and we get to eat it all. But we're going to be leaving quickly, just like Prabhupada also. So, we have to enjoy the pie, so to speak, the pie of giving Krishna consciousness. And it's like the verse says about the spiritual master, is like the boatman who, he takes the boat, he brings you to the other side of the Vairaja river, to the spiritual sky. But the boat is still there for the other disciples. So the opportunity to serve Guru and Granga is still there. And there's like this huge place where there's so many people who don't have Krishna consciousness. So the opportunity is there. I mean, our movement is so small. It's a little bit big in India. But even in India, where there's a billion plus people, there's so much opportunity for spreading Krishna consciousness. With the speaking in other parts of the world, I mean, most of the rural areas of the world, people don't know nothing about Krishna consciousness. They just know whatever their religion is that they grew up with. Only in big cities around the world, and a few rural spots. So, and even in the big cities, we have one temple. I mean, just drive to Picayune, you'll pass 5 or 6 churches. So how many churches or temples or, do they have in big cities? Lots. So there's like even unlimited opportunity in big cities. With to speak about the rural areas. So this movement's just begun. It's just begun. So the opportunity is simply tremendous. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.